If you haven't heard already, KTM has reached an agreement with its creditors, and its future is secured. But is it? Hey gang, KTM and two of its subsidiaries have been operating under insolvency since back in November. And we're about 2 days removed from this news, but in case you haven't heard yet, as of Tuesday, the very last day of its 90-day protection window, a restructuring plan has been approved by KTM's creditors. And if you were to look around at all the headlines, you'd think it was the US mainstream media the way they're all parroting the exact same words. KTM secures its future, or KTM's future is secured. Yeah, full bankruptcy and liquidation has been temporarily averted, but is KTM's future actually secured? Yeah, on that part, yeah, it's less clear so. And let's talk about why. But first, let's take a step back and examine just how bad things had gotten. You see, since KTM filed with the Alpine Creditors Association in Austria, they got 90 days protection to renegotiate their debt. But in order to do so, they had to open the books and air all that dirty laundry. And it was dirty and stinky. Turns out the last straw was when one of their creditors called in a 247 million euro loan that KTM just flat couldn't pay. But that, my friends, was just the tip of the iceberg. KTM and two of its subsidiaries owed a collective 2.9 billion euros to over 2,500 individual creditors.
That's a lot.
Yeah, no, that's a lot. KTM AG owed the bulk of it at $2.7 billion to over 1,600 plus creditors. And they barely surpassed $100 million in profit this past fiscal year reported. KTM FE, their research and development division, owed over 100 million euro to over 500 different individual creditors. And they were actually posting a loss for the last fiscal year. Whereas KTM Components, well, they owed a little bit under 100 million to over 300 plus additional individual creditors, while they were posting a very modest 7.5 million euros in profit last fiscal year.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Yeah, it's bad. And going into 90-day restructuring with self-administration, that just meant KTM could propose their own restructuring plan at the end of that 90 days. And of course, when they came up with their own proposal, they proposed paying back the statutory minimum 30% over the course of 2 years. That's the absolute minimum necessary for them to retain control of their own company. In other words, every investor loses 70% of their investment.
No! God, please, no! No!
Of course, the alternative to that is full bankruptcy and liquidating the company and selling off all the pieces, which most evaluators say that based on the company's value, that would pay off about anywhere from 12 to 15% of the debt. So investors were kind of out of luck here. On the one hand, you approve the plan and get 30% of your investment back. On the other hand, you don't approve it, you get 12% back and complete closure of the company.
Not a great plan.
So, of course, leaders are going to approve this plan, right? Not so fast. Because Whitebox Advisors, a US-based hedge fund and investment management firm that specializes in distressed debt and is known for taking activist positions in companies that are undergoing financial difficulties or restructuring, just like KTM. Yeah, they started buying up all this debt, and they used that leverage to force a new plan. And that new restructuring plan, it has KTM paying back almost 600 million euro by the end of the first 90 days. Yikes. And KTM has already come out and said it's going to need an influx of over 800 million euro to make that initial payment by May 23rd. So who's going to provide those funds that KTM clearly doesn't have? To figure that out, KTM commissioned Citigroup to go out and find new investors. And that probably translates into somebody is going to buy a huge, potentially controlling interest in KTM. In fact, rumors have already been going wild that BMW is looking to do exactly that. Over the last couple of years, KTM has been investing up to a controlling interest in MV Agusta. So that's probably going to be sold. And it's much less clear what's going to happen to KTM-owned Husqvarna. The current official word is that Husqvarna is not going to be impacted. But investment certainly could be reduced. Production could be scaled down. You might even be looking at the discontinuation of certain models. And with their back so firmly against the wall, KTM, which is a proud Austrian company, might find themselves being moved elsewhere by whomever they sell to cover that initial 90-day debt. And what if they don't cover that 90-day debt and they can't make that payment on May 23rd? I don't know, but I wouldn't say they're out of the woods, and I certainly wouldn't say their future is secured. And meanwhile, even though they are poised to restart, all of their production in Austria is still halted. And I bet a lot of talented people that haven't gotten a paycheck since November have probably moved on by now. And on top of that, KTM reportedly has 265,000 bikes sitting in excess inventory, just collecting dust. Because ever since COVID, they have been producing bikes way beyond demand. And the extra bad news on top of that is that all those unsold bikes are not 2025 Euro 5 Plus compliant. That means KTM has got until the end of 2025 to sell off all of those bikes, or they can never be sold. But there are a couple of silver linings here. Number one, if KTM does manage to sell off all of those bikes, they won't. Well, then KTM is no longer insolvent. They have plenty of cash. But the burning question there is anybody buying? After multiple years of very questionable support, yeah, KTM's reputation is kind of tanked. I mean, it's not bad, but it certainly isn't what it used to be. But that brings us to silver lining number two. A lot of those year-old KTMs are already selling for $4,000 to $6,000 under MSRP. If you're a KTM fan, or heck, if you're not even a KTM fan, but you just want a super deep discount on a brand new motorcycle, you might be able to get a new bike for an absolute steal. Yeah, 2025 is going to be an interesting one to watch for KTM's future, that's for sure. And rest assured, new 2025 models are going to be rolling off that production line pretty soon. Are you in the market to buy one? Tell us all about it in the comments below. Meanwhile, we'll keep bringing you along for our rides. And until then, we'll see you in the next one. Oh, hey guys, we hope you liked the video, and if you did, we've got a whole bunch more. In fact, there's a couple right here. You can look at this one, or this one right there. Or you know what, if you don't want to miss any of these, you could go ahead and subscribe by hitting that little round button right there. I mean, you don't have to, but I'd like you to. I do put a lot of hard work into these videos, but you can do whatever you want. It takes a lot of time, but